What is up, guys? Wrestling Premiere is here. I was gonna upload a video about Armageddon 2007, but I apologize because I was supposed to upload this a few days ago and I didn't, so I owe you guys part 2 of the Triple H and Stone Cold feud. This part is gonna cover the rest of the feud, and it's not gonna cover the two-man power trip as I already covered that in a previous video. Let's start right where we left off. Survivor Series. As you know, Stone Cold got run over at the Survivor Series and he was replaced by the Big Show in the main event. Big Show would go on to capture the WWF Championship. The next night on Raw, some detectives began questioning Triple H, DX, Mr. McMahon, and the best one, The Rock. The Rock was being interviewed by Michael Cole when a couple of detectives came up to him. They asked him if he's aware that his car was used in the hit and run on Stone Cold. The Rock said that he's aware of that, then he made fun of the detectives by mentioning donuts. Anyways, 2000 was perhaps WWE's best year ever, and it's crazy that it was so successful without Stone Cold. He was the leader of the Attitude Era, yet 2000 felt spectacular despite him not being there for most of the year. There was so much talent. They had The Rock and Triple H leading the way, with the likes of Kane, Kurt Angle, The Undertaker, and Chris Jericho following along. Now, before I talk about Austin's return, let me talk about the guys that did so much in the Rattlesnake's absence. Triple H, the prime suspect, married his way into the McMahon family, and he captured the WWF Championship twice. The Rock became the top guy and he captured the title twice too. Other guys like Kurt Angle made a name for themselves in Austin's absence. Like, Angle debuted the night Austin was ran over. Chris Jericho climbed up the card during Austin's timeout, and the Radicals, well, they also made a name for themselves. Anyways, on the September 7, 2000 episode of SmackDown, Stone Cold got the loudest pop, and he wasn't even there. He was just on the screen. Austin would announce that he's coming to Unforgiven, and he threatened whoever ran him over. Now let's move on to 2 weeks later, when the WWF and everyone else prepared for Austin's return. On the final SmackDown before Unforgiven, Mick Foley lined up every WWF superstar at ringside. The reason why Foley called out every WWF superstar was because he wants to conduct his own personal investigation into who ran over Stone Cold Steve Austin. He began calling his prime suspects one by one. First up, Foley called for The Rock to enter the ring. The Great One explained that he said it several times. He never ran over Stone Cold. Foley believed him and called for the next suspect, Triple H. The Gamer explained that he was setting Austin up for a beating at Survivor Series and that he doesn't run over his enemies. He looks them in the eye and he beats them down. Yeah, good one. Triple H would tell Foley that maybe a woman did it, and then he'd accuse Kurt Angle of running over Austin. Kurt Angle entered the ring, and he told Foley that he had no motive to run over Austin since he won an Olympic gold medal. He also mentioned that Austin is a beer-drinking, trash-talking, poor role model for children everywhere. Then Austin accused the most random person on the roster, S.A. Rios. Angle would then accuse Triple H and DX again, which led to X-Pac entering the ring and accusing Chris Jericho. Y2J entered the ring, and he told X-Pac that he was the one that locked Stone Cold in the parking lot, because, you know, DX, Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, and X-Pac locked Austin out in the parking lot, remember? Chris Jericho then accused Stephanie McMahon of running over Austin. Stephanie entered the ring, and the $1 Billion Princess would mention that she was right there when Stone Cold was loaded into the ambulance. This led to Stephanie accusing a certain someone, The Undertaker. The Undertaker just stood there and he smiled as he chewed on his tobacco. The American Badass then entered the ring and said that it's true. Then he added that Stephanie is a sleazy tramp. Following that was a brawl that started after Kurt Angle attacked The Undertaker. Now, let's talk about Austin's return at Unforgiven. Shane McMahon during Heat claimed that he had footage that pertains to who ran over Stone Cold Steve Austin. When the Boy Wonder came out later that night, he did show us some footage that relates to who ran over Stone Cold. As you could see, there it is. Shane O'Mac showed us footage of Steve Blackman running over Ken Shamrock a year earlier. Well, there it is. Steve Blackman then came out and the Boy Wonder ran out the ring. Then the glass shatters, and as usual, the crowd pop was loud. This time, Austin came out to a new entrance song. So yeah, when Austin did his signature second row poses, Steve Blackman tried to explain to him that he didn't do it. Once Austin went face to face with Blackman, Blackman wanted to get to Shane, but Austin didn't let him go through, and the Texas Rattlesnake would deliver a stunner to Blackman. Shane McMahon would then grab a cooler full of beer and celebrate with Austin as if they won a damn match. The two would continue to celebrate until Austin just stood there and stared at Shane. Just look at Shane. He looks like he knew what was coming. It was at this moment he knew that he effed up. It's simple. Then Austin gave Shane O'Mac a stunner, which implied that Austin didn't believe Shane. Oh yeah, Stone Cold delivered another stunner to Shane. The next night, Stone Cold kicked off Raw. Austin said that when he finds out who ran him over, he's gonna destroy him. He also said that he's gonna go through the entire WWF roster. Over the next couple of weeks, Stone Cold began attacking several WWF superstars and interfering in matches. This led to Commissioner Foley suspending Stone Cold. During Austin's suspension, a certain someone revealed that it was he that ran over Stone Cold. On the October 9th episode of Raw, Shawn Michaels made a random appearance. When Michaels came out, he got a loud pop. So, despite not competing, HBK was still over. Like, imagine if HBK was the one that ran over Stone Cold. That would have been sick. Mick Foley questioned HBK, asking him where he was on the night of Survivor Series. Michaels told Foley that he had no motives, and then he exited the ring. But then Foley showed HBK footage of WrestleMania 14. So, if he did run over Austin, then he clearly had a motive. Foley then said that no one even remembers that HBK was the one that paved the way for the superstars of today. Shawn Michaels was clearly pissed, and he told Foley that he doesn't want to see that footage again. HBK would mention that he was at home the night of Survivor Series. HBK would also mention that he was displeased that it came to a point where guys ran over each other in the WWF. Shawn Michaels denied being the guy to run over Austin, and then he'd accuse someone else of running over Austin. He told Foley that if he smells what he's cooking, and he left the ring, so you know who it was. Later that night, The Rock and Rikishi won their tag team match. Mick Foley came out and he promised to deliver who ran over Stone Cold Steve Austin. Foley began to mention The Rock's motives, and then he'd announced that The Rock didn't do it. Mick Foley then pointed at Rikishi. Foley then mentioned Rikishi's motives, saying that the mirrors were configured to fit a very large man like Rikishi. Rikishi stood there shocked as if he was innocent. He then grabbed Foley's mic to announce that he did it. The Rock looked so disappointed in Rikishi, and then Rikishi would utter the $1 million quote, "I did it for The Rock." We get it. You know how many times he says, "I did it for The Rock" in this segment? He says it 1,000,000 times. Just wait up. Rikishi then said that the WWF is the place for the Great White Hope. He then said that the Samoans were held back. Once again, he'd mentioned that he ran over Austin and The Rock didn't have anything to do with it. He ended the promo saying that he ran over Austin and that he'd do it again. He then left the arena to the Too Cool song. Like, that doesn't match at all. You look fly today. Like, that doesn't match at all. Why did he still have that song when he went out? They could have used no entrance theme song at all. Just let him walk out. On that week's SmackDown, Mick Foley lifted Austin's suspension and he called for the Texas Rattlesnake to come down to the ring. Foley told Austin that he should wait until No Mercy to get his hands on Rikishi. Austin then told Foley he should just wait out in the parking lot instead and run over Rikishi. Foley would tell Austin that he'd go to jail for that, and Austin disliked the idea of a match against Rikishi, but then Foley added a no holds barred stipulation to the match, and obviously Austin liked it. Like, no one goes to jail with that stipulation, so Austin obviously accepted the match. On the next Raw, Rikishi stood in the same exact parking lot where Austin was run down. Rikishi challenged Austin to a brawl in the parking lot, and Austin walked all the way back to the parking lot where Rikishi was nowhere to be found. Austin began walking around in the parking lot, reminiscent of Survivor Series 1999. Then, Rikishi out of nowhere attempted to run over Austin. Stone Cold avoided getting run down, and Rikishi would remind Austin of No Mercy. Rikishi on that week's SmackDown destroyed Stone Cold's truck. At No Mercy, Rikishi got his ass handed to him, and the match was so one-sided. Like, Rikishi barely got any offense in. At the end of the match, Austin would nearly run over Rikishi, but he would conveniently crash into a police car that basically saved Rikishi, as Austin would spend the night in jail. On that week's SmackDown, Austin was bailed out by Mick Foley, and he promised him that he wouldn't touch Rikishi unless he was physically provoked. At the end of the night, Rikishi called out Stone Cold, and Austin walked out of his locker room only to get hit with a wrench. We don't know who hit Austin. Well, you obviously know now, but at the time, no one knew who hit Austin with a wrench. Austin did come out a few minutes later, but Rikishi took the advantage and he hit a bonsai drop on Austin to end SmackDown. The next week, Austin would destroy Rikishi in a steel cage, and the feud between Rikishi and Austin looked to be over. Another thing Stone Cold had to deal with during this time period was random occurrences. Austin became suspicious, and this time around, he began searching for Rikishi's accomplice. That week's SmackDown would see Rikishi reveal to Austin that The Rock was the mastermind behind the hit and run. The Rock responded by saying that Rikishi's story stinks more than his rear end. The Rock mentioned every bad thing he did to Austin, like the time he threw him into the Detroit River, like that funeral thing where Austin brought a monster truck, all that stuff. The Rock said all of those were face to face, so why would he run Austin over? On the November 6th episode of Raw, Stone Cold was going to team up with The Rock, but someone took the great one out. Stone Cold Steve Austin came out to the ring and he was at a 2-on-1 disadvantage until Triple H, a face Triple H, came down to the ring to make it 2-on-2. Triple H gave Kurt Angle some right hands and he threw him out of the ring. Then Triple H grabbed the sledgehammer and drilled Austin with the sledgehammer. Triple H then told Austin that his search is over and that he's now found out who Rikishi's accomplice was. On SmackDown, Triple H explained how he orchestrated the hit and run of Stone Cold Steve Austin. He said he wanted Austin to never forget what happened and that he wants Austin to fear him. At Survivor Series, Stone Cold Steve Austin faced Triple H in a no disqualification match. A little side note, this was around the time period when Triple H began using a remixed version of My Time. If I remember correctly, he also used a rap version of the song. The match between the two was good, but it was so long. Anyways, the match ended in a no contest and Stone Cold went after Triple H, but he got assaulted by the Radicals. This gave Triple H enough time to enter his car and leave presumably, but it was revealed to be a trap. Austin and Benoit continued to brawl, and Benoit sprinted across the parking lot while Austin basically disappeared. Triple H was waiting for Austin, and Chris Benoit began searching in the arena when the Texas Rattlesnake grabbed Triple H's vehicle with a forklift and raised it high in the air. Triple H began shouting that he'll regret this, and Austin didn't care, and he lifted the game's car even higher. Stone Cold then dropped the car with the forklift. I mean, Triple H tried to end Austin's career and possibly his life. What did he think he was gonna get in return, like a beer? Also, look at Stone Cold. He had no remorse and he just left. Only Stone Cold could pull this off. And maybe The Rock. As for Triple H, well, he obviously had to retire due to this. Who could survive such a incident? The next night on Raw, Stephanie McMahon kicked off the show and she apologized on Triple H's behalf to Stone Cold. She even called for Austin to end the feud. Stone Cold then came out and he cut such a forgotten promo. He told Stephanie that he's sorry he didn't try to drop Triple H again and again. He even told Stephanie that she should go out and pick up a casket. As you can see, Stone Cold sent this message to Triple H. He clearly didn't accept Triple H's apology. That is, if Triple H had an apology. Stone Cold ended the promo by telling Stephanie that this feud between him and Triple H ain't over. He cut what was essentially a heel promo and he got cheered. But then again, after what Triple H tried to do to him, why would you boo him? On a number of occasions, Triple H tried to end the Rattlesnake's career. Why would you boo Austin? He was in the right. The next week on Raw, Triple H would cost Stone Cold the WWF Championship, and he came back with no scratches at all. Triple H delivered a neck breaker to Stone Cold on a steel chair to end Raw. The feud between these two would continue as they participated in the 6-man Hell in a Cell at Armageddon. One thing I love about that match is the fact that at one point, everyone had an issue with one another. Anyways, Angle retained the title, but Austin would be the last one standing after he delivered a stunner to the Olympic gold medalist. The final chapter in the Austin and Triple H feud would begin on the January 8th, 2001 episode of Raw. Stone Cold hit the stunner on Kurt Angle and he went for the cover when Triple H pulled the ref and assaulted him. Austin called for the game to get into the ring, and man, JR was on fire during this encounter. Triple H slowly walked down to the ring, and like JR just said, you can feel it. The two brawled and the crowd went nuts. Austin gained the upper hand, but then Triple H struck Austin with a steel pipe. Austin was busted open, but he still tried to fight back. Triple H then hit Austin with the pipe twice, and obviously Austin couldn't recover from this. JR was cursing Triple H on commentary, and this was the exact night Triple H debuted the game theme song. The next week, Stone Cold once again hit the stunner on Kurt Angle, but this time he actually won the match. Triple H once again, after the match, walked down the ramp, and he tried to provoke Stone Cold. During this episode, Mr. McMahon placed the rule that if either one of these men fought one another, then Triple H doesn't get his title shot and Austin doesn't enter the Rumble. Triple H called Austin a punk, and the game begged Austin to hit him. He begged him just to give him a right hand. Triple H even called him a dumb SOB. Austin flipped Triple H and he left. But what made Stone Cold come back to the ring is this. Triple H then called Austin a pussy. What the hell? I don't think I've ever heard someone utter that word in the WWF. I do think at one point Mr. McMahon called the Brothers of Destruction that word. Luckily for Austin, he didn't lose his temper as Kurt Angle hit the angle slam on Triple H. So yeah, he was going to the ring though. He was gonna kick Triple H's ass. It's just Kurt Angle hit the angle slam on the game. At the Royal Rumble, Stone Cold cost Triple H the WWF Championship. Since Austin cost the game the title, Triple H decided to return the favor by attacking Austin during his entrance to the Rumble match. Triple H busted Austin open open during the one Billy Gunn's entrance. Eventually, many officials pushed Triple H away from Austin. Austin, however, would recover during Rikishi's entrance and he'd raise hell. Stone Cold would end up winning the Royal Rumble after eliminating Kane. Good God, what a Royal Rumble event that was. It was wild, it was entertaining, it was flat out amazing. The feud between Stone Cold and Triple H had to end, so a 3 stages of hell match was made for No Way Out. The night after the Royal Rumble was a contract signing for the match. Mr. McMahon said that if there was any physical altercations between the two, then Austin loses his title shot at WrestleMania and Triple H is gone for 6 months. Both men signed the contract, but then as Austin was leaving the ring, Triple H hit Austin with the contract. McMahon then shouted to the game that he's suspended for 6 months, but then Triple H said that he ain't suspended because he hasn't signed the contract yet. Then the game signed the contract and told Austin this, paragraph 316, now you can't touch me. Stone Cold would find a way to get to Triple H by hitting a stunner on Stephanie. The game was enraged at this, but he too found a way to get to Austin. On the final SmackDown before No Way Out, Triple H performed the pedigree on JR. Stone Cold ran down to the ring, but obviously he couldn't touch Triple H. The match at No Way Out was, well, it was spectacular, it was vicious, it was violent, it was brutal, it was entertaining, and it was closure. Closure to the feud between Austin and Triple H. Now, the first fall was a regular wrestling match, and Austin hit the stunner to win the first fall. Triple H bounced back by using the sledgehammer on Austin, and then performing a pedigree to make it 1-1. The next fall was a steel cage match, and at this point, both men were exhausted. Austin, during the match, used the 2x4 barbed wire on Triple H, and the match ended with both men using a weapon on one another. Triple H was just lucky to be on top of Austin when the ref counted to 3. For me, this is a 5-star match. It was fantastic. I watched it a few months ago, and I just flat out loved it. I thought it was weird that Triple H won because he's the one that took out Austin, but who cares? Triple H needed the win because he was going to feud with The Undertaker while Stone Cold was going to face The Rock at WrestleMania. Man, the road to WrestleMania of 2001 is perhaps the greatest one ever. The pay-per-views, the matches, the feuds, everything. It was just awesome. I feel like Austin and Triple H's feud felt so intense, like they really wanted to hurt each other whenever they faced off. This feud is probably the most intense feud in WWE history. Like, McMahon and Austin hated each other, but McMahon still liked that Austin made him money. He just wanted Stone Cold to be his guy. The Rock and Stone Cold's feud wasn't as intense as this one, although I prefer Rock and Austin's feud up to WrestleMania 17 over this one. Now, I already covered Austin's heel run and the 2-man power trip, so if you want to watch that video, it's up here. In that video, I said that in storyline, Austin sided with McMahon and Triple H because he didn't know if he still had what it takes to win the title. He teamed up with Triple H because he was paranoid and it was better that the guy who beat you is on your side and he's not challenging for your title. But still, it was weird that Austin and Triple H teamed up. And that's it for this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit a pedigree on the like button and perhaps a Stone Cold Stunner on the subscribe button. Peace, I'm out.